Please leave a comment where you are watching from. Dating, well, it was easier than meeting someone in real life. I worked long hours, lived alone, and had a social circle that mostly consisted of co-workers and a few college friends scattered across the country. Tinder, for all its faults, offered a way to feel connected, even if only temporarily. His name was Noah. He messaged me first. "So what's your go-to karaoke song?" I didn't sing. Ever. But I appreciated the originality. We chatted for a few days. He said he was a freelance videographer, mostly wedding stuff but occasionally music videos. He was 32, lived downtown, and had a cat named Boomer who only liked women and rotisserie chicken. His photos were casual, one in a beanie with coffee, one holding a camera, one from behind a drum kit. He seemed normal, charming even. We agreed to meet for dinner at a Korean place halfway between our apartments. Neutral territory. Public. Busy enough to feel safe. I wore black jeans, a soft gray turtleneck, and ankle boots. Comfortable, low risk. I arrived first and grabbed a booth near the window. He was late. Not by much, maybe 10 minutes, but late enough for me to notice. When he walked in, I knew immediately that something was off. Not his appearance, he looked like his photos, more or less. Maybe a little taller, a little thinner. But his energy was different. Jittery. His eyes darted around the restaurant before settling on me. He slid into the booth and smiled. "You're even prettier in person." I smiled politely. "Thanks." We ordered food, bibimbap for me, bulgogi for him, and made small talk. At first, it was fine. He asked about my job, my dog, my favorite TV shows. But then he started talking about his ex. She was crazy. Like actually unstable. Thought she could read people's minds. Would track my phone. Show up at places I didn't tell her I was going. He laughed like it was funny. It wasn't. He mentioned her 3 more times during dinner. Each reference more bitter than the last. She accused me of cheating because I liked someone's photo on Instagram. She used to leave notes on my car. Like she owned me or something. "You're not like that, right?" I paused. "Like what?" "Clingy. Controlling." I shook my head. "I don't think so." He leaned in. "Good. I hate that." After dinner, I told him I was tired and needed to get home. He offered to walk me to my car. I declined. He insisted. I declined again. He looked disappointed but not angry. Okay. I get it. Gotta build trust." I nodded and left quickly. In the parking lot, I checked over my shoulder twice before getting into my car. Just in case. That night, he messaged me. "I had a good time. You've got a great smile." I replied with a simple, "Thanks. Take care." Then unmatched him. It wasn't a dramatic decision. I just didn't want to keep talking. Something in my gut had already made the call. 3 nights later, I saw his car. It was parked across the street from my building. Same make. Same model. Same dent on the rear bumper I'd noticed when he pulled into the restaurant lot. At first, I thought it had to be a coincidence. But then I saw him. In the driver's seat. Just sitting. Engine off. Lights off. Staring at my building. I turned off my own headlights and parked 2 blocks away. Walked home slowly, checking every shadow. By the time I reached my door, he was gone. I didn't sleep much that night. The next day, I convinced myself I'd imagined it, or that the car belonged to someone else. A similar model. A similar build. I was being paranoid. Right? But then it happened again. And again. Different nights. Same car. Same spot. Sometimes I saw him. Sometimes I didn't. But I always felt it. I stopped leaving the house after dark. I started taking different routes to work. I kept my curtains closed, even during the day. Then the packages started. Small. Unmarked. No return address. The first was a USB stick. I plugged it into an old laptop, one I didn't use anymore. Inside were 2 files. One was a video, footage of me walking my dog. From across the street. From behind a tree. The second was a .txt file. "You looked peaceful." I reported it to the police. They took a statement, said they'd keep an eye out. But there wasn't much they could do. No direct threat. No name. No fingerprints. Just a suspicion that wouldn't hold up in court. They advised me to stay alert and document everything. I bought pepper spray, a door camera, a second deadbolt. I told my manager I needed to work remotely for a while. Then things escalated. One night, I heard something outside my window. A soft tapping. Repetitive. Measured. I looked through the peephole of my apartment door. No one. But when I opened the blinds of my bedroom, I saw him. standing on the sidewalk, hood up, looking straight at my window. He didn't move, just stood there for what felt like hours, though it was probably only minutes. I called the police. Again. By the time they arrived, he was gone. They asked if I had proof. I showed them the video from the USB, the packages, the timestamps of the car sightings. They said it was enough to start a report, maybe even a temporary restraining order. But I didn't have his last name, only a first name and a Tinder profile that no longer existed. They told me they'd try to trace the packages. Nothing came of it, so I left. I didn't pack much, just enough for a week. I stayed with a friend across town. Didn't tell anyone where. Kept my phone on airplane mode. Avoided all patterns. When I came back to check on my apartment, the front door had a scratch mark near the lock. Like someone had tried to pick it. I changed the locks. Installed a security camera above the door. Started sleeping with my keys under my pillow. Eventually, the sightings stopped. Weeks passed. Then months. No more cars. No more packages. No more tapping. Nothing. I wish I could say I felt relief. That I finally exhaled. But the truth is, it never really goes away. There's something about windows at night that always unsettled me. The way they reflect your own image back at you, but still leave just enough black space outside to imagine anything could be out there. As a kid, I used to close my blinds right before sunset. I never liked the idea of being visible without knowing who might be watching. By the time I was in college, I'd outgrown most of my childhood fears. I lived at home to save money, commuted to campus, and spent most nights studying, working, or scrolling through dating apps. My parents trusted me. I was responsible, careful. I didn't party, didn't drink, didn't take risks. I matched with him on Tinder during winter break. His name was Ty, short for Tyler. He had dark hair, a confident grin, and a profile that was trying just a little too hard to seem cool. Skateboard in one picture, lifting weights in another, and a quote that read, "If you're not real, don't waste my time." I wouldn't normally swipe right on someone like that, but I was bored. Curious. He messaged me first. "You look like someone worth getting to know." Not original, but polite. We talked for a few days. I learned he was 24, worked at a roofing company, and lived in a neighboring town about 30 minutes away. He was flirtier than I liked, but not inappropriate. I told him I wasn't looking for anything serious. He said that was fine, he just wanted to hang out, maybe grab coffee. I didn't agree to meet. The more we talked, the more something felt off. He was too insistent, too quick to ask personal questions. He wanted to know when I worked, what time I got home, whether my parents were the strict type. He asked for selfies constantly, even if I told him I was busy. If I took more than an hour to respond, he'd send follow-ups. "Hey, did I do something wrong? Are you mad at me?" I told him I was feeling overwhelmed and needed space. He said he understood. Then 2 days later, he made a new account and messaged me again. "You didn't have to ghost me. I thought you were different." That's when I blocked him. He tried again. New account. New name. Same photos. I blocked that one too. Then another. And another. Over the course of 2 weeks, he made 6 different profiles. Each time, he'd open with something like, "Hey, just wanted to talk." I'm not mad. The tone was always apologetic, but there was something beneath it. Something that felt like it was waiting to boil over. I finally reported his accounts to Tinder. Then deleted the app entirely. For a while, nothing happened. Weeks passed. Winter turned to spring. I focused on school. Got a part-time job at a bookstore. I stopped thinking about Ty. Until the messages started. They weren't from him, at least not directly. They were from random numbers. Always unlisted. Always brief. "Still working late? You look nice today. Why'd you block me?" I changed my number. It didn't stop. One afternoon, I came home and found a paper flower taped to the mailbox. It was folded from a page of a book. The words were highlighted in pink. She didn't know he was still watching. I didn't tell my parents right away. I didn't want to scare them. My dad had a bad heart, and my mom was already the anxious type. I convinced myself it was a coincidence. A prank. Nothing serious. But I started noticing things. Footprints outside the house. A cigarette but near my window. No one in my family smokes. My bedroom curtain slightly moved when I knew I hadn't touched it. I finally told my dad. He didn't say much. Just nodded, grabbed a flashlight, and did a full sweep of the yard that night. He told me to keep my blinds closed and never come home after dark alone. He started parking his truck closer to the front door. I think he was trying not to alarm me, but I could tell he was worried. Then came the night I saw him. It was late, maybe 1 a.m. I'd stayed up finishing a paper and went to the kitchen for water. The backyard was pitch black. No moon, no lights. I poured a glass, turned to go back to my room, and froze. There was someone standing just beyond the patio. Still. Silent. Facing the house. I couldn't see his face, only the outline. But then he moved slightly into the light, and I saw the mask. It was a cheap white plastic one. No expression. Just 2 dark eye holes. I dropped the glass. It shattered. My dad was down the stairs in seconds. What happened? I could barely speak. Just pointed to the window. He looked out. The figure was still there. Then my dad did something I'll never forget. He ran outside. No shoes. No flashlight. Just raw instinct. I heard him shout. A scuffle. Then a thud. My mom called the police while I stood frozen by the sink, heart pounding, hands shaking. When the officers arrived, they found my dad sitting on top of the guy, knee pressed into his back, one hand gripping his wrist. The mask had come off. It was Ty. No question. He was older than I remembered. His hair longer. His eyes wild. He said nothing. The police handcuffed him, read him his rights, and took him into custody. They found a knife in his backpack, and a folder full of printed photos, some of me, some of my house, some of my workplace. He'd been watching for months. We filed for a restraining order. He was charged with stalking, trespassing, and possession of a weapon with intent to intimidate. He pled not guilty. His lawyer claimed it was all a misunderstanding, that he was just trying to reconnect. But the evidence said otherwise. I testified. He was denied bail and eventually sentenced to a year in jail, followed by probation. It's been 2 years. I still keep my blinds closed before sunset. I still check the backyard every night. Sometimes I wake up thinking I see the mask outside my window. Just a flash, a pale oval in the dark. But it's never there. Not yet. People talk a lot about red flags, but they don't always show up immediately. I'm not someone who's easily rattled. I've lived alone for 4 years, worked late shifts, walked home in the dark, and dealt with my share of overconfident strangers. I know how to carry my keys between my fingers. I know how to keep my earbuds out in one ear. I know how to say no in a voice that's firm but not angry, friendly but final. So when I first saw him at the gym, I didn't think anything of it. He was just another guy lifting in the free weight section, tall, broad-shouldered, a little too into his own reflection. He wore a backward cap and brought his own chalk for deadlifts. The type you'd expect to see posting clips of his squats on Instagram with hashtags like #beastmode or #grindneverstops. He didn't approach me that first day. Just nodded once when we made eye contact near the mirror wall. I nodded back and went back to my workout. I'd been going to that gym for almost a year. It was close to work, open late, and had good lighting. The staff knew me by name, and I had a routine. Weights on Mondays and Thursdays, cardio on Wednesdays, yoga on weekends. I wore the same old leggings and oversized t-shirts, kept my hair up in a bun, and never stayed longer than 90 minutes. The second time I saw him, he smiled. I smiled back briefly and kept moving. The third time, he approached me. "Hey, you're here a lot." I paused, pulling out one earbud. "Yeah, I guess. What's your split?" I hesitated. Push/pull. "Nice," he said. "I've seen you deadlift. You've got good form." "Thanks," I said, already turning away. He extended a hand. "I'm Ryan." I shook it. "Lena." After that, he made a point of saying hi every time I came in. Not in a creepy way, at first. Just a wave, a smile, sometimes a comment about the music playing or how busy it was. He started working out near me more often, switching benches when I moved, timing his sets to match mine. I noticed, but I didn't say anything. It might have been coincidence. One night, after I finished my last set, he caught me near the water fountain. "You heading out?" "Yeah, early shift tomorrow. You want to grab a smoothie or something?" I smiled politely. "Thanks, but I've got to get home." He nodded. "Cool. Another time." I thought that would be the end of it. It wasn't. The next week, he asked again. Then again. Each time I said no. Politely. Clearly. "I'm not looking to date right now. I just come here to work out. It's nothing personal. I just keep to myself here." He always smiled. Always said, "No worries." But then he'd be back the next day, asking how my shift went, what I was training that night, if I'd changed my mind. I started changing my schedule, going earlier, skipping days, switching machines randomly so I couldn't be followed easily. He still found me. One night, I left the gym just after 9 p.m. It was dark, but the lot was well lit. As I approached my car, I heard footsteps behind me. I turned. It was him. "Hey," he said casually. "Just heading out too?" I nodded, unlocking my door. "You sure you don't want to grab something? I know a 24-hour diner." "I'm good, thanks." He leaned slightly on the passenger side of my car. "You don't have to be so cold. I'm just trying to be nice." "I appreciate it, but I've said no." He paused. His smile twitched. "Okay," he said. "Didn't mean to make you uncomfortable." He stepped back. I got in and locked the doors. After that, I started parking closer to the entrance. I told the front desk manager, a woman named Deirdre, what had been happening. She frowned and said she'd keep an eye out. That if I ever felt unsafe, I should come to the front immediately. The next week, Ryan wasn't there. I exhaled. Then he came back. And this time, he didn't say anything. He just stared. From across the gym. From behind machines. From the stretching area near the mats. His eyes would follow me from the moment I walked in to the moment I left. He stopped smiling. Stopped waving. One night, he stood near the exit while I walked to my car. Didn't follow. Just stood. Watching. I told Deirdre again. She pulled up the security footage and said she'd report it to the manager. The next day, someone had scratched the passenger side of my car. A long, deliberate line. I stopped going to the gym. I canceled my membership. Started working out at home. I bought resistance bands, a yoga mat, a set of dumbbells. 3 nights later, I saw a car idling down the street from my apartment. Same make. Same color as Ryan's. It stayed there for 10 minutes. Then drove off. I filed a report with the police. They said without a direct confrontation or threat, there wasn't much they could do. I installed a camera above my front door. I changed my route to work. I blocked every unfamiliar number that called me. For weeks, nothing happened. Then one evening, I came home and found a note slipped under my door. It said, "Why'd you stop saying hi?" I moved. Left the city. Took a transfer with work. Got a new number, new email, new gym. One with security at the door and tinted windows. Let me just start by saying, I don't go on dates with guys who own guns. That's not a political thing, it's a personal boundary. If a guy mentions his Glock in the first 5 minutes, I'm out. I've had enough weird experiences with guys who think, I protect what's mine is romantic. It's not. It's just unsettling. So naturally, I found myself on a date with a man who owned a gun. Let me explain. His name was Jordan. We met on Bumble. His profile was minimal in that way that makes you think he's either extremely cool or hiding something. One photo was him hiking, one was him holding a puppy, and one was him standing on a beach with sunglasses and a baseball cap, face barely visible. His bio: looking for someone who laughs at my bad jokes. Bonus points if you like dogs and don't mind the outdoors. Harmless, right? He opened with, "Do you prefer bowling alleys or bonfires?" I replied, "Depends. Are we talking cozy bonfire or the kind where people bring acoustic guitars and sing off-key?" He said, "Cozy. No guitars. Just mores." We talked for a few days. He was chill. No pressure. No creepy compliments. He asked about my dog, my job, my favorite late-night snack. He told me he worked in IT, had a rescue mutt named Milo, and really liked night drives because they made the world feel quieter. I liked that. He suggested we meet up at a park near the bowling center, just outside town. It had a trail loop, a duck pond, and picnic benches. He said it would be casual, just a walk and maybe some fries afterward. I agreed. I wore jeans, a hoodie, and sneakers. Practical. Comfortable. Nonchalant. When I pulled into the lot, he was already there, leaning against his car with a takeaway tray of iced coffees. He held one up like it was a peace offering. "For the lady," he said. I laughed. "You don't know how I take it. You look like a vanilla cold brew kind of girl." I raised an eyebrow. "Do I?" He handed me the cup. "Took a guess. If I'm wrong, there's a backup." He had a second tray in his car. 2 more drinks. I couldn't decide if that was thoughtful or strange. We walked the trail, sipping coffee. He told me about growing up with 4 younger siblings. I told him about my failed attempt to foster a senior cat who hated everyone, including me. We laughed. It was easy. We ended up sitting on a bench near the pond. The sun had just dipped behind the trees. Lamps were flickering on, casting long shadows across the grass. It was peaceful in that suburban, slightly eerie way. The kind of quiet that makes you notice every twig snap. That's when I saw him. At first, I thought it was some dumb teenager playing a prank. A guy in a clown mask, standing at the edge of the trees. Just standing. Watching us. I pointed. Okay, that's not normal. Jordan followed my gaze. His entire body stiffened. The clown didn't move. Just stood there, holding something long in his hand. I squinted. At first, I thought it was a stick. Then I saw the glint. It was a machete. Jordan stood up slowly. Stay behind me. I blinked. What? Get behind me, he said again, more urgent this time. I did. The clown started walking toward us. Not fast. Just steady, like he had all the time in the world. Each step deliberate. He said nothing. The mask was expressionless, white face paint, red lips, hollow eyes. Jordan reached into his jacket and pulled something out. It was a gun. I froze. Is that real? I whispered. Yes, he said. Licensed. The clown kept walking. Stop right there. Jordan shouted. No reaction. He raised the gun and fired once, into the air. The sound cracked like a firework. Birds exploded from the trees. Somewhere behind us, a car alarm went off. The clown stopped, then turned and ran. Full sprint, back into the woods, vanishing between the trees. Jordan lowered the gun, breathing hard. I was shaking. Are you okay? He asked. I nodded. That was a gun. Yes. You had a gun. I wasn't going to let anything happen to you. I didn't know what to say. He called the police. Reported the incident. Gave a description. They said they'd send a patrol car to the area, but that it was probably a prank. A prank with a machete? I said. Hard to prove, the dispatcher said, according to Jordan. Unless someone's injured. We waited 15 minutes. No one showed up. No clown. No cops. Just the two of us standing at the edge of the trail, adrenaline draining, trying to process what had just happened. He offered to walk me to my car. I hesitated. I won't touch you, he said. Promise. I nodded. As we reached the lot, I looked back toward the woods. Nothing but shadows and rustling leaves. We stood by my car in silence. Then I said, You could have told me you carried. He looked down. I don't usually bring it on dates. But something felt off tonight. I studied his face. What do you mean? I don't know, he said. I almost canceled. I had this weird dream last night. Woke up sweating. Figured I was just being paranoid. But when I saw that guy, I knew. I got in my car and locked the door. He stood back as I started the engine. I'm sorry, he said. I just wanted you to feel safe. I nodded once, then drove away. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept seeing the mask. The way it stared. The slow walk. The machete. I called the police the next day to follow up. They said they'd patrolled the area and found nothing. No footprints. No sign of a suspect. Likely a local prankster. I didn't find it funny. I unmatched Jordan the next day. Not because he did anything wrong, but because I realized something. It didn't matter how prepared you were, how polite, how cautious, how clever. I'd been on dating apps long enough to know the difference between a bad date and a dangerous one. I'd had my share of awkward conversations, mismatched expectations, and overzealous flirts. But nothing had ever truly frightened me. That night changed everything. His name was Ethan. We matched on Hinge. He had the kind of face you'd expect to see in a finance commercial, clean-cut, square-jawed, always in a button-down. His profile said he was a data analyst by day, amateur chef by night. He loved hiking with his golden retriever, had a passport full of stamps, and claimed he made the best chicken tikka masala in 3 states. We started talking on a Tuesday. The conversation flowed easily. He was funny, attentive, and quick to respond without being overeager. He asked questions about my job, my hobbies, even my favorite childhood movie. That stood out. Most guys barely made it past, "What do you do?" before steering the conversation somewhere suggestive. By Friday, he asked if I wanted to meet in person. He suggested a restaurant in the downtown district, a trendy place I'd been to once before with friends. Mid-range prices, good lighting, always busy enough to feel safe, but not so loud that you had to shout across the table. I agreed. He made the reservation for 7:30. I arrived 5 minutes early and got a table near the back, tucked between a large window and a booth of 4 women celebrating someone's birthday. I texted him to let him know I was there. He replied, "Perfect. Just parked." Be in 2. He walked in right on time. Tall, well-dressed, exactly like his photos. His hair was neatly styled, and he carried himself with a confident ease that made me feel like I was already behind in the conversation. But his smile was warm, and he greeted me with a quick hug that didn't linger. "So nice to finally meet you," he said. We sat down, ordered drinks. He got a whiskey neat. I got a lemon spritzer. They had a version with vodka, but I chose the non-alcoholic one. I wanted to stay clear-headed. It was a first date, after all. The first 20 minutes were pleasant. He talked about his job, something about analytics for a logistics company. He made it sound more interesting than it probably was. I told him about working in nonprofit communications, and he seemed genuinely intrigued. He asked thoughtful questions, and even remembered that I'd mentioned my dog's name in a previous message. The drinks arrived. Mine came in a tall glass with a lemon wedge on the rim. His was short, dark amber, a single cube of ice. He raised his glass. "To new connections." I smiled and clinked mine against his. As I was lifting my glass for a sip, I noticed him glance down at the table, then quickly back up. It was subtle, but something about it made me pause. The moment passed, though, and I took a small sip. The conversation continued, but something started to shift. Ethan leaned in more. His voice got lower. Less casual, more deliberate. "You've got really captivating eyes," he said. "I noticed that in your photos, but they're even better in person." "Thank you," I said, offering a polite smile. He reached out and grazed my wrist with his fingers. "You're easy to talk to." I nodded, but the gesture caught me off guard. I excused myself to use the restroom, more out of instinct than necessity. I needed a moment to breathe, to reset. Something about his energy was starting to feel different, like he'd flipped a switch when he thought I wouldn't notice. When I returned, my drink had been moved. Just slightly. It was closer to him than where I'd left it. He smiled as I sat down. "You were gone a while. Everything okay?" "Yeah," I said. "Just freshening up." I reached for my drink, but something in me hesitated. That's when I saw her. A woman from the booth next to us, the birthday group, stood up and walked over. She looked to be in her late 30s, with dark red lipstick and a confidence you could feel before she spoke. "Hi," she said to me. "Sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to say I love your dress. Where did you get it?" I blinked. "Oh, thank you. I think it was from a boutique downtown." She smiled warmly, then leaned in just enough that only I could hear her. "You need to come with me. Right now. Don't drink anything." I stared at her. She looked me straight in the eye. "He put something in your drink when you went to the bathroom." I saw him. The blood drained from my face. I looked at Ethan. He was watching us calmly, like he was deciding how to react. "I just need to borrow her for a second," the woman said, grabbing my arm gently but firmly. She guided me away from the table before I could speak. We walked straight to the front of the restaurant. "Are you okay?" she asked. I think so," I stammered. "Are you sure?" "I watched him," she said. "He took a small vial out of his pocket and poured it into your drink." I wasn't the only one who saw it. My friend called the manager. The manager was already on the phone with the police. Within minutes, 2 officers arrived. They spoke to the woman who'd helped me, then to the staff, and eventually escorted Ethan out of the restaurant. I gave a statement. So did the woman. Her name was Carla. The officers found a small glass vial in Ethan's pocket, empty. They took the drink for testing. Later, I learned it tested positive for benzodiazepines, sedatives. Ethan was arrested for attempted drugging with intent to commit a felony. He had no prior record. No red flags. His LinkedIn was clean. His dating profile was polished. He had dozens of mutual friends with people I knew from college. He didn't fit the image most people have in their heads when they think of predators. But that's the thing about predators. They're rarely obvious. They smile. They compliment. They ask about your job. They hold the door open. And sometimes they bring a vial in their pocket. I never saw Ethan again. He was released on bail. I was told he'll face trial later this year. I still think about Carla. If she hadn't been watching. If she hadn't spoken up. If I'd taken one more sip. I thanked her a dozen times that night, and I've thanked her 100 more in my head since. Now, whenever I go out, I watch. I watch who's watching others. I watch where drinks sit. I used to think dating someone who lived in your building was a great idea. Built-in convenience, no commute, impromptu dinners, and the comfort of knowing they're just a stairwell away. I told myself, this is what adulthood is supposed to feel like. Efficient, cozy, and maybe even a little romantic. I met Mike during my second month living in the building. He lived in 3B, just one floor up from my place in 2A. We bumped into each other at the mailboxes. He made a joke about how the elevator always smelled like burnt popcorn. I laughed, and for some reason that moment stuck. He was charming in a laid-back, I do my own oil changes kind of way. Tall, scruffy, always in cargo shorts and band t-shirts. He worked in construction, mostly freelance contracts, and said he liked the flexibility. He had a raspy voice, like he'd smoked since puberty, and a surprisingly gentle laugh. We started with small talk, then coffee in the lobby, then beers on his balcony. The first time he kissed me, it was after helping me carry up a box of books I'd been avoiding unpacking. He leaned against my doorway and said, "You know, I've been waiting for an excuse to come inside." I laughed and let him in. From there, things moved quickly. The first few weeks of dating Mike felt like the honeymoon phase on steroids. We saw each other constantly, because how could we not? I'd hear his footsteps in the hallway and feel a little thrill, like I was in a rom-com. He'd drop by with snacks, or I'd bring over wine. We stayed up late talking, watching bad sci-fi movies, or just sitting on the floor with our backs against the couch. He told me about growing up in a small town in upstate New York. About his mom, who had passed from cancer 2 years ago. About his dad, who he hadn't spoken to in over a decade. About how he sometimes felt like the world was moving too fast, and he just needed quiet. I listened. I liked that he was open. Sensitive, even. But I also noticed little things I didn't quite know how to process. Like how he always kept the blinds drawn, even during the day. Or how he flinched when the microwave beeped too loud. Or how once, when a car alarm went off outside, he stood completely still for almost 2 full minutes, staring at the ceiling. I chalked it up to stress. The world is loud. He said he was recovering from a rough patch. Bad roommates, bad jobs, bad meds. I didn't pry. I wanted to believe the best. So I did. The first real red flag came one night around 2:45 a.m. I woke up to the sound of thudding music, some kind of heavy industrial metal shaking the walls. I assumed it was a party, maybe some new tenant being inconsiderate. I got up, walked into the hallway, and realized it was coming from Mike's unit. I knocked. No answer. I knocked louder. Still nothing. The door was unlocked. I pushed it open and found him sitting cross-legged on the living room floor, shirtless, eyes closed, speakers blaring. "Mike!" I shouted. He didn't respond, just kept rocking slightly back and forth. I touched his shoulder. He jolted, eyes wide, like he didn't recognize me. "What are you doing?" I asked. He blinked. "They're trying to listen," he said. "But the music drowns them out." I stared at him. "Who's trying to listen?" "The building," he whispered. "The walls. They have ears." I slowly turned off the speaker. He stood up and hugged me like I'd just brought him back to earth. "Thanks," he mumbled. "I just needed the static to stop." I didn't sleep that night. The next morning, he was back to normal. Or pretending to be. He made pancakes. Kissed my forehead. Called it a weird dream. I asked if he was okay. He said he was. That he had a lot on his mind. That sometimes the noise in his head got too loud, and he needed a way to fight it. I told him to talk to someone. A doctor. A therapist. He said he didn't trust them. "They just want to label you," he said. "Put you in a box and keep you there." I told him I was worried. He said, "Don't be. You calm me down. You're the only one who sees me." I believed him. Until the next time. It was a Tuesday when things truly turned. I was in his apartment, folding laundry on his bed, when he walked out of the bathroom holding a towel, dripping wet, and started shouting at the ceiling. "Shut up! Shut the hell up!" I froze. He paced the room, yelling at the air. "Don't act like I don't know what this is. I've read the files. I know what you're doing." Then he looked at me. "You told them, didn't you?" I blinked. "What are you talking about?" "You told the landlord. Or the super. Or whoever." I saw the maintenance van outside. They're in the walls. "Mike!" He stepped closer. "You think I don't see it? The way you're always looking at the vents. The way you keep your phone face down." I backed away. "I haven't told anyone anything," I said. He stared at me for a long time. Then smiled. "Okay," he said softly. "Okay." I left 15 minutes later and cried in my car. After that, I started pulling away. I stopped answering his texts right away. I made excuses. Said I was busy. That I had family visiting. He didn't take it well. He started knocking on my door late at night. Sometimes 2-3 times in a row. He left me notes. "I know something's changed. You promised you wouldn't be like the others." You're not safe alone. One morning, I found a dead bird on my doorstep. I don't know if it was him, but I moved it with gloves and didn't ask. The night I decided to leave for good, he was screaming. Not words, just raw guttural sound. I called the building manager. He said, "We've had complaints before." I asked, "Why hasn't anything been done?" He sighed. Because he pays rent on time. Because he doesn't technically violate the lease. Because no one wants to deal with it. I packed a bag. Stayed with a friend. The next day, I filed a police report. They said unless he threatened me directly, there wasn't much they could do. I ended my lease early. Paid the penalty. Didn't look back. That was a year ago. I still live in the same city, but I double-check leases now. Research tenants. Ask more questions. Sometimes I still hear music at 3 a.m. But it's in my head, not the walls. Dating your neighbor might seem convenient. But when things go wrong, you can't just walk away. Sometimes you have to run, and hope the walls forget your name. I met her on Snapchat, which should have been the first red flag. It wasn't even through a friend or a group. She added me randomly, and I assumed she got my handle from someone I knew. That happens sometimes in small circles, especially when you live in a college town where everyone knows everyone, or at least pretends to. Her name was KD. Blonde, pretty sharp jawline. Her snaps were mostly selfies, filters, tongue out, peace signs. A little bit of attitude in every one. She messaged me first. "You're cute. What's your story?" I didn't think much of it. I'd just gotten out of a weird situationship, and I wasn't looking for anything serious. So I replied. We traded snaps for a few days. Basic stuff, what music we liked, what we were doing that night, inside jokes that made no sense to anyone else. KD was bold. Confident. She asked if I had roommates, what kind of bed I had, if I liked girls who take charge. I thought it was just flirting, half serious, half performance. I didn't mind. I figured we were on the same page. Just chatting, maybe hang out once, no pressure. One night she sent a snap of her in a hoodie, no makeup, laying on a pillow. Bored. "You up?" It was 11:30 p.m. I said, "Yeah, just watching YouTube." She replied, "Should I come over?" I paused. Thought about it. I'd never met her in person. But she sounded normal. Her Bitmoji looked like her. Her voice memos were casual. I figured if anything felt off, I'd just keep it chill. Watch a movie. Nothing had to happen. "Sure," I replied. "I'm at my street. It's the first house with the blue truck in the driveway." She said she'd be over in 20 minutes. I straightened up a bit, turned on the porch light, made sure my roommates were asleep. I wasn't nervous. More curious than anything. KD showed up just after midnight. She was wearing leggings, a cropped hoodie, and white sneakers. She looked younger than I expected, maybe 19 or 20. She smelled like vanilla and something sharp underneath it, like citrus or alcohol. She didn't say much when she walked in, just looked around, smiled, and said, "So this is your place?" I nodded. "Yeah, just me and 2 roommates. They're knocked out." We sat on the couch. I put on a movie. She curled up next to me, head on my shoulder. It was quiet, comfortable even, until she started kissing me. I kissed her back, but gently. I didn't want to move too fast. I wasn't sure yet if I was into it. Something about her energy felt off, not bad, just off, like she was trying too hard to make something happen. She pulled back and looked at me. "You're not like other guys," she said. I smiled. Is that a compliment? Most would have already tried to hook up. I shrugged. I'm not most guys. She leaned in again, more aggressively this time. I let it happen for a second, then pulled back. "Hey," I said. "Let's slow down a little." Her face changed. Just a flicker. Not anger, more like confusion. "You don't want me?" she asked. "It's not that," I said. "I just like to take things at my own pace." "That cool?" She didn't answer right away. Then she stood up. "I should go," she said. I offered to walk her out. She didn't reply. Just grabbed her phone, slipped on her shoes, and left. I sent her a message the next morning. "Hey, hope you got home safe." No response. I figured that was it. I didn't expect anything more. I was wrong. 3 days later, I started getting weird snaps. Random pictures of my street taken from inside a car. One of my blue truck. Another of my mailbox. No caption. No context. I screenshotted the snaps. Then I messaged her. "Katie? Is this you?" She opened the message. Didn't reply. That night, someone knocked on my window. Not the door. The window to my bedroom. I jumped out of bed, pulled back the curtain. Nothing. The next morning, I found a footprint in the flower bed. A small one. About her size. I told myself it could have been a prank. Maybe my roommate's messing with me. I didn't bring it up, but the snaps kept coming. One showed the back of my house. Another from across the street, clearly zoomed in on my bedroom window. Then the messages started. Why won't you talk to me? You said I was different. I know you're awake. I can see the light. I blocked her. That night, I heard laughter outside. 2 or 3 voices. I looked through the blinds, saw a car parked just beyond the streetlight, engine running. I couldn't make out the faces, but I recognized the silhouette in the passenger seat. KD. I called the non-emergency police line. Told them someone was loitering near my property. They sent a patrol car, but by the time it arrived, the car was gone. I didn't sleep. The next day, I found a note taped to my driver's side mirror. It said, "You don't get to ghost me." I showed it to the police. They told me to document everything. So I did. Every snap. Every note. Every time I heard a car idling outside at 2 a.m. Then a week later, she tried to get inside. It was 1:30 in the morning. I was half asleep on the couch when I heard the front door handle rattle. I froze. Then I heard whispering. I crept to the peephole. KD was standing on the porch, phone in one hand, the other on the doorknob. Behind her were 2 guys, hoodies pulled up, one holding something long and metal. I didn't wait. I called 911. They left before the cops arrived, but the door had fresh scratches near the lock, like someone had tried a tool on it. The next day, I filed for a no-contact order. KD was served a week later. She tried to deny it at first, said I invited her over, said I led her on. But the screenshots and the police reports were enough to convince the judge. She was ordered to stay at least 200 feet away from me and my home. I didn't hear from her again after that. But sometimes late at night, I still check the windows. Just in case. Because what started as a few harmless snaps turned into something much darker. I used to think you could outrun someone if you were fast enough. If you packed light, left early, changed your number, deleted your social media, and didn't look back. I believed that distance meant safety. That a state line could act like some invisible shield. I was wrong. His name was Caleb. And for a long time, I thought he was the love of my life. We met in college. Nothing special, just 2 people who happened to be at the same orientation dinner. He was a junior, I was a freshman. He had this magnetic way about him, quiet, but not shy. He made you feel like everything you said was interesting, like you were the only voice in a crowded room. We started dating a few weeks later. At first, it felt like a dream. He was attentive, charming, and always knew what to say when I needed to hear it. When I got homesick, he'd bring me late-night milkshakes and sit on the dorm steps until I felt better. When my dad got sick, he held me while I cried, telling me I didn't have to go through it alone. Everyone loved him. My roommates, my professors, even my mom, who is notoriously suspicious of any guy I brought home, said, "He seems like a good one." He wasn't. It started small. He'd get moody when I went out with friends. Not angry, just distant. Passive. Quiet for hours afterward. Then he started joking about the clothes I wore. "You don't need to dress like that. Who are you trying to impress? You know other guys are watching you, right?" When I pushed back, he'd laugh and say, "Relax. I'm just messing with you." But the comments kept coming. He didn't like my best friend, said she was trouble. He didn't like when I didn't answer texts right away. He didn't like when I talked to other guys, even if they were classmates or baristas or just someone asking for directions. I started changing without realizing it. I stopped wearing certain outfits. I stopped going out. I deleted apps, ignored messages, and told myself I was just being considerate. That's what he wanted. Consideration. We dated for nearly 3 years. The breakup was messy but not dramatic. I just couldn't do it anymore. I told him I needed space, that I wasn't happy, and that we'd grown apart. He didn't scream. He didn't cry. He just stared at me for a long time and said, "If you go, you'll regret it." I left anyway. I moved to a different city 3 hours away, got a new job at a small nonprofit, and rented a 1-bedroom apartment above a bakery. It was the first time I'd lived alone. I bought plants. I painted the walls a pale green. I went to spin classes and started reading again. I even went on a few dates, nothing serious, just enough to feel like myself. Then one morning, I got a text from an unknown number. "Green looks good on you." I froze. I'd worn my new green jacket that day. The one I'd ordered as a kind of post-breakup rebellion. Too bright, too bold, too unlike the girl I'd been. I looked around, heart pounding. I was standing in line at the coffee shop near my office. People everywhere. No one looking at me. I deleted the message and told myself it was spam. A week later I saw him. Or maybe I didn't. Maybe it was someone who just looked like him. Same build, same walk, same gray hoodie. He was across the street, looking down at his phone. I ducked into a bookstore and waited 15 minutes before coming out again. No one was there. I told myself I was being paranoid. Then came the emails. Different addresses. No subject lines. Just quotes. Lyrics. Inside jokes from college. Lines from movies we used to watch. This is the part where you say you're sorry. You always said you hated the ending. I know you miss me. I blocked every address. I changed mine. I started locking every window, every door, even during the day. I told my friends. They said I should get a restraining order. But I didn't have proof. No threats. Just vibes, unsettling, persistent, unprovable vibes. Then one evening, I came home from work and found a box on my doorstep. No label. No postage. Just a plain brown box with my name written in red ink. Inside was a photo of us from college. One of those photo booth strips. We were both laughing, eyes closed, arms tangled. On the back, someone had written, "Still the best night." I moved again. This time, I didn't tell anyone where. Not even my mom. I found a sublet in a different state, packed only what I could fit in my car, and left in the middle of the night. I changed my number. Deleted every account. I even dyed my hair and started going by my middle name at work. For a while it worked. I felt anonymous. Invisible. Safe. Then 3 months later, I saw the listing. It was a rental across the street from my building. A charming unit with lots of natural light. The name on the application? Caleb M. Just an initial. Just enough. I went to the leasing office and asked about it. They couldn't give me details. Privacy laws. But the woman behind the desk gave me a look, a small, knowing look, and said, "You might want to be cautious." That night, I packed again. I didn't wait to see if he moved in. I didn't give notice. I just drove. I've done that 4 times now. For cities. For jobs. For different versions of myself. Each time, I get a little quieter. A little more careful. I use cash when I can. I keep my phone off unless I need it. I don't post. I don't share. I don't linger. It's been a year since the last move. I live in a small town now. Population under 9,000. I rent a guest house behind an older couple's property. They don't ask questions. I work remotely, order groceries online, and go for walks at dawn when no one's around. Sometimes I still get that feeling, like someone's watching. Like a breath on the back of my neck. I remind myself it's just fear. Old trauma echoing through new walls. But then I remember the box. The photo. The way he said, "If you go, you'll regret it." And I know better. Some people don't let go. They don't accept silence. They follow. They wait. They move in across the street and pretend it's a coincidence. They learn your new name, your new job, your new favorite coffee shop. I grew up in a small town, not the kind with one stoplight and a single gas station, but small enough that everyone knew who your parents were and where you'd gone to school. After college, I moved back home to save money and regroup. I got a job at the local auto shop and moved into a rental behind my uncle's bar. It was quiet, predictable, too quiet sometimes, so I downloaded Tinder. I wasn't expecting much. You swipe through the same 4 people every week in towns like mine. Most of the profiles are either high school friends I'd lost touch with, or people who live 40 miles away and just forgot to set their radius. But then I matched with her, Amanda. She was new. Said she'd just moved back from the city to take care of her dad after surgery. Her profile had 3 photos, one in a flannel shirt at a bonfire, one at a lake, and one where she was holding a beer and laughing. She looked casual, down to earth. Her bio just said, "Not here for anything serious. Just bored." We started chatting. She was funny, a little sarcastic, and she asked me questions that made it clear she actually read my profile, which, in my experience, was rare. We talked about music, hometowns, and how there was nothing ever going on in places like this. After a few days, she invited me to a party. Said her cousin was throwing a bonfire on their family's farm about 10 minutes outside of town. I was hesitant at first. I didn't really know her, and I wasn't big on random parties in the middle of nowhere. But she said it wasn't a huge thing. Just a few people, drinks, music, maybe some fireworks. You should come, she said. It's better than whatever else you're doing tonight. She wasn't wrong. So I agreed. She sent me a pin on the map. It was just off a county road I didn't know well, nestled between soy fields and forest. I drove out around 8:30 p.m., just as the sun was starting to dip behind the trees. The road narrowed the farther I went. Gravel kicked up behind my truck. I saw a rusted mailbox with the right number and turned down the dirt path. It led to a clearing surrounded by cornfields, with an old barn on one side and a small trailer off to the other. There were no other cars, no lights, no music, just the sound of crickets and the soft rustling of wind through the stalks. I parked and got out looking around. That's when I saw her. Amanda stepped out from the edge of the cornfield waving. "Hey," she called. "Over here." I waved back. "Where's everybody?" She smiled. "They're out by the fire pit. Come on, it's just a short walk through the corn." That gave me pause. "Through the corn? It's faster than walking around," she said. "Trust me." I hesitated, but she laughed and said, "Don't be scared, city boy." So I followed her. The path into the cornfield was narrow, barely wide enough for two people side by side. The stalks towered over us, and the deeper we went, the more the light faded. The sound of the wind was louder now, almost like whispers. After a few minutes, I realized we weren't moving toward any fire. It was getting darker, and the ground beneath my boots felt damp. I stopped. "Hey," I said. "Are you sure this is the right way?" She didn't turn around, just kept walking. Then she said, "You ever think about how easy it is to disappear out here?" I froze. "What?" She turned slowly, smiling in a way that didn't reach her eyes. "People don't come looking in places like this," she said. "Not for a while." I started backing up. That's when I heard the rustle behind me, followed by the unmistakable sound of a shotgun being cocked. I turned. There was a guy, mid-20s, camo jacket, short buzzed hair, stepping out from between the stalks, gun in hand, pointed at the ground but angled just enough to make his message clear. "Evening," he said. I raised my hands instinctively. "What is this?" Amanda stepped closer, now completely different. Her body language had shifted, no more casual charm, no more flirty banter. She said, "You shouldn't have answered my messages." I looked back at the guy with the gun. He didn't say anything, just stood there watching. My heart pounded in my ears. "I don't know what this is," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "But I'm leaving." "No," she said. "You're not." Then she turned to the guy and said, "You wanted to see for yourself, right?" He nodded. "Yup." She looked back at me. "This is my ex." He didn't believe I was over him, so I had to show him. I blinked. "What?" "You were just the proof," she said. "The bait." The guy raised the shotgun a little higher. "So you're the one she's been screwing around with." I took a slow breath. I didn't even know she had a boyfriend. Amanda laughed. "Ex." And technically we were on a break. I looked between them, calculating. 2 options, run or talk. I didn't like the odds of either, so I gambled. "Look, man," I said to the guy, "I had no idea. If I'd known, I wouldn't have come. This has nothing to do with me." He didn't respond, just kept his eyes on me. Amanda stepped closer. "You're lucky he's being nice," she said. "He usually isn't." I took a step back. "Okay," I said. "If this was just to prove something, fine. You made your point. I'm leaving now." I turned to go. That's when the guy raised the gun. I didn't wait. I bolted. I tore through the corn, stumbling and crashing into stalks. I heard shouting behind me, but I didn't look back. I just kept running, branches slapping my face, dirt flying underfoot. I burst out onto the gravel path, heart hammering, and sprinted to my truck. Got in, locked the doors, started the engine with shaking hands. Headlights on. Reverse. Then drive. I didn't stop until I reached the main road. I pulled into a gas station and called the sheriff. They took it seriously. Turns out I wasn't the first. Amanda, real name Marissa, had pulled something similar before. Lured guys out to isolated places, used them to manipulate or intimidate her ex-boyfriend. No one had ever reported it, until me. They arrested both of them a week later. Unlawful restraint. Brandishing a weapon. Criminal conspiracy. They both pled out. I gave a statement. Then I deleted every dating app one had. I still don't know what would have happened if I hadn't run. If the guy had pulled the trigger. If Amanda had decided to take things further. I grew up in a small town, Not the kind with one stoplight and a single gas station, but small enough that everyone knew who your parents were and where you'd gone to school. After college, I moved back home to save money and regroup. I got a job at the local auto shop and moved into a rental behind my uncle's bar. It was quiet, predictable, too quiet sometimes, so I downloaded Tinder. I wasn't expecting much. You swipe through the same 4 people every week in towns like mine. Most of the profiles are either high school friends I'd lost touch with, or people who live 40 miles away and just forgot to set their radius. But then I matched with her, Amanda. She was new. Said she'd just moved back from the city to take care of her dad after surgery. Her profile had 3 photos, one in a flannel shirt at a bonfire, one at a lake, and one where she was holding a beer and laughing. She looked casual, down to earth. Her bio just said, "Not here for anything serious. Just bored." We started chatting. She was funny, a little sarcastic, and she asked me questions that made it clear she actually read my profile, which, in my experience, was rare. We talked about music, hometowns, and how there was nothing ever going on in places like this. After a few days, she invited me to a party. Said her cousin was throwing a bonfire on their family's farm about 10 minutes outside of town. I was hesitant at first. I didn't really know her, and I wasn't big on random parties in the middle of nowhere. But she said it wasn't a huge thing. Just a few people, drinks, music, maybe some fireworks. "You should come," she said. "It's better than whatever else you're doing tonight." She wasn't wrong. So I agreed. She sent me a pin on the map. It was just off a county road I didn't know well, nestled between soy fields and forest. I drove out around 8:30 p.m., just as the sun was starting to dip behind the trees. The road narrowed the farther I went. Gravel kicked up behind my truck. I saw a rusted mailbox with the right number and turned down the dirt path. It led to a clearing surrounded by cornfields, with an old barn on one side and a small trailer off to the other. There were no other cars, no lights, no music, just the sound of crickets and the soft rustling of wind through the stalks. I parked and got out looking around. That's when I saw her. Amanda stepped out from the edge of the cornfield waving. "Hey," she called. "Over here." I waved back. "Where's everybody?" She smiled. "They're out by the fire pit. Come on, it's just a short walk through the corn." That gave me pause. "Through the corn? It's faster than walking around," she said. "Trust me." I hesitated, but she laughed and said, "Don't be scared, city boy." So I followed her. The path into the cornfield was narrow, barely wide enough for 2 people side by side. The stalks towered over us, and the deeper we went, the more the light faded. The sound of the wind was louder now, almost like whispers. After a few minutes, I realized we weren't moving toward any fire. It was getting darker, and the ground beneath my boots felt damp. I stopped. "Hey," I said, "are you sure this is the right way?" She didn't turn around, just kept walking. Then she said, "You ever think about how easy it is to disappear out here?" I froze. "What?" She turned slowly, smiling in a way that didn't reach her eyes. "People don't come looking in places like this," she said. "Not for a while." I started backing up. That's when I heard the rustle behind me, followed by the unmistakable sound of a shotgun being cocked. I turned. There was a guy, mid-20s, camo jacket, short buzzed hair, stepping out from between the stalks, gun in hand, pointed at the ground but angled just enough to make his message clear. "Evening," he said. I raised my hands instinctively. "What is this?" Amanda stepped closer, now completely different. Her body language had shifted, no more casual charm, no more flirty banter. She said, "You shouldn't have answered my messages." I looked back at the guy with the gun. He didn't say anything, just stood there watching. My heart pounded in my ears. "I don't know what this is," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "But I'm leaving." "No," she said. "You're not." Then she turned to the guy and said, "You wanted to see for yourself, right?" He nodded. "Yup." She looked back at me. "This is my ex." He didn't believe I was over him, so I had to show him. I blinked. "What?" "You were just the proof," she said. "The bait." The guy raised the shotgun a little higher. "So you're the one she's been screwing around with." I took a slow breath. I didn't even know she had a boyfriend. Amanda laughed. "Ex." And technically we were on a break. I looked between them, calculating. 2 options, run or talk. I didn't like the odds of either, so I gambled. "Look, man," I said to the guy, "I had no idea. If I'd known, I wouldn't have come. This has nothing to do with me." He didn't respond, just kept his eyes on me. Amanda stepped closer. You're lucky he's being nice, she said. He usually isn't. I took a step back. Okay, I said. If this was just to prove something, fine. You made your point. I'm leaving now. I turned to go. That's when the guy raised the gun. I didn't wait. I bolted. I tore through the corn, stumbling and crashing into stalks. I heard shouting behind me, but I didn't look back. I just kept running, branches slapping my face, dirt flying underfoot. I burst out onto the gravel path, heart hammering, and sprinted to my truck. Got in, locked the doors, started the engine with shaking hands. Headlights on. Reverse. Then drive. I didn't stop until I reached the main road. I pulled into a gas station and called the sheriff. They took it seriously. Turns out I wasn't the first. Amanda, real name Marissa, had pulled something similar before. Lured guys out to isolated places, used them to manipulate or intimidate her ex-boyfriend. No one had ever reported it, until me. They arrested both of them a week later. Unlawful restraint. Brandishing a weapon. Criminal conspiracy. They both pled out. I gave a statement. Then I deleted every dating app one had. I still don't know what would have happened if I hadn't run. If the guy had pulled the trigger. If Amanda had decided to take things further.